The Galactic Council had watched Earth for 50 years before they decided to make contact. They sent tiny probes that floated in the clouds and recorded everything. They watched humans build tall buildings and plant gardens. They saw them create paintings and write songs. They observed mothers holding babies and old people feeding birds in parks. The council saw humans cry during sad movies and laugh at jokes. They saw them help strangers on the street and donate money to save animals they would never meet. The Velari people were the first to speak in favor of humans. They were an ancient species with soft blue skin and for gentle eyes. They had lived in peace for 10,000 years. Their leader, Ambassador Wren, stood before the Council of 12 Species and gave her report. "Humans are wonderful," she said. "They are small and weak. They have no claws. They have no poison. Their skin is thin and easy to break, but they have big hearts. They make beautiful things. I believe they will be perfect friends," the council agreed. They voted to invite humans to join them. A message was sent to Earth. Humanity accepted with great excitement. 3 months later, a small human ship arrived at the council station called Eternal Harmony. The station was massive, bigger than any city on Earth. It floated in space like a silver flower with 1,000 petals. Ships from 12 different species came and went every hour. The human delegation was small. There were only 3 of them. Captain Park Jun-ho was the leader. He was 42 years old and had served in the Republic of Korea Marine Corps for 18 years. He had seen combat 3 times. His hair was cut short and his eyes were calm, but there was something heavy behind them. He stood straight and spoke little. Dr. Kim Yuna was the translator. She had spent her whole life studying languages, and now she would study alien ones. She was 35 years old, with a quick smile and curious eyes. She asked questions constantly and wrote everything down. Lieutenant Lee Tai-ho was the 3rd member. He was an intelligence officer, which meant he watched and listened more than he spoke. He was young, only 29, but he had a sharp mind. He noticed things other people missed. When they stepped off their ship, Ambassador Wren was waiting to greet them. She towered over the humans. She was nearly 3 meters tall, with long, thin arms and flowing robes made of living silk that changed colors as she moved. "Welcome, dear friends," Wren said. Her voice was like water flowing over smooth stones. "We are so happy you have come. Please, let me show you our home." She led them through the station. Everything was clean and bright. There were no sharp edges anywhere. The walls curved gently into the floors and ceilings. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked past them, nodding politely. "This is the meditation garden," Wren explained, as they entered a large room filled with strange plants. Aliens sat on cushions with their eyes closed. When any species has a disagreement, they come here. They sit together. They breathe. They find peace. "We have not had a true conflict in 3,000 cycles." Junho looked at Tai-ho. Tai-ho looked back. Neither of them said anything. 3,000 cycles, Yuna repeated. "That is very impressive. It is the way of civilized beings," Wren said proudly. "Violence is for animals. Thinking creatures find better solutions." They continued the tour. Wren showed them hospitals where any species could be healed for free. She showed them libraries filled with the knowledge of 1,000,000 worlds. She showed them art galleries and concert halls and schools where children of all species learn together. "You will love it here," Wren said. "We have watched your people. We know you are gentle souls." "Thank you," Yuna said. Wren stopped and looked down at the 3 humans. Her 4 eyes blinked slowly. "I must say I find your species fascinating. You have no natural weapons at all. No claws, no fangs, no venom, no armor. Even your young are helpless for years after birth. How did you survive on your planet?" Kun-ho opened his mouth to answer. Then he closed it again. He thought about how to explain. "We survived," he said finally. "We found ways." Wren seemed satisfied with this answer. "How fortunate that you evolved on such a peaceful world. It must have been very safe." Tai-ho made a small sound that might have been a laugh. He turned it into a cough. "Something wrong?" Ren asked. No, Taiho said. Just adjusting to the air. They were given beautiful rooms on the highest level of the station. The windows looked out at the stars. The beds were softer than anything they had ever felt. Food was delivered automatically, though it tasted strange to human tongues. On their second day, a small drone arrived with a package. Inside was a tablet displaying a questionnaire. This was the official application for council membership. Every species had to complete it. Yuna read through the questions. Most were simple. Population size, technological level, government type, cultural values then. She reached question 40-7. She read it twice. Then she called Junho and Taiho over. Look at this, she said. The question read, has your species developed formal rules governing conflict between groups? Junho stared at it for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. Formal rules for conflict, he repeated. It seems like a simple question, Yuna said. It is not a simple question, Junho replied. It is the least simple question I have ever seen. Taiho leaned closer to read the fine print below. They want examples. If we have such rules, we should describe them. Junho sat down heavily on the soft bed. He rubbed his face with his hands. He thought about the Geneva Conventions. He thought about The Hague. He thought about tribunals and trials, and all the things humanity had promised never to do again. We have rules, he said slowly. We have many rules. Too many rules? Should we tell them? Yuna asked. Junho was quiet for a while. He looked out the window at the peaceful station, at the ships coming and going, at the aliens walking calmly through the halls below. They think we are innocent, he said. They think we are soft and gentle because we have no claws. We are soft, Taiho said. Physically. Yes, Junho agreed. Physically. He stood up and walked to the window. But they have not asked the right questions yet. They have not asked why we needed rules in the first place. What do we do? Yuna asked. Junho turned to face them. His expression was serious. We answer honestly. They invited us here. They deserve to know who we really are. They might not like the answer, Taiho warned. Junho nodded slowly. No, he said. They will not like the answer at all. He picked up the tablet and began to type. The banquet was held on the third night. The council wanted to celebrate humanity's arrival. All 12 species sent representatives. The great hall was decorated with lights that floated in the air like fireflies. Tables curved in circles, and every seat was designed to fit a different body shape. Junho wore his dress uniform. The medals on his chest caught the light. Yuna wore a traditional Korean dress, dark blue with silver patterns. Taiho wore a simple black suit and tried to look relaxed. Ambassador Ren guided them to their table. Around them sat beings of every shape imaginable. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no visible features at all, just shifting clouds of light and color. They all watched the humans with great interest. You are celebrities, Ren said with amusement. Everyone wants to meet the newest species. The food arrived on floating plates. The council had tried to create human dishes, but they did not quite understand. The steak was purple and tasted like flowers. The bread was too soft and melted on the tongue. The wine was excellent, though it made Taiho's ears turn red after one glass. Junho ate politely and answered questions. Yes, Earth had one sun. Yes, humans needed water to survive. Yes, they slept every night for 6 to 8 hours. The aliens found these facts delightful. They treated humans like interesting pets. Halfway through the meal, a new alien approached the human table. He was small compared to the others, only slightly taller than Junho. He had a hard shell covering his body and thin wings folded against his back. His eyes were large and dark, and his antennae moved constantly. May I join you? He asked. His translator made his voice sound young and eager. Of course, Yuna said, gesturing to an empty seat. The alien sat down. My name is Kale. I am a historian. I study new species when they join the council. I have been studying humans for many months. What have you learned? Junho asked. Kale's antennae twitched with excitement. So much. Your art is beautiful. Your music makes unusual patterns. Your literature is very creative. He paused. But I am confused about something. Ask your question, Yuna said. Kale leaned forward. I have watched many of your entertainment broadcasts, what you call movies and television. Many of them show something called war. Large groups of humans fighting other large groups of humans, cities burning, weapons firing, much death. The table grew quiet. Nearby aliens turned to listen. Yes, Junho said carefully. We do have stories about war. That is what confuses me, Kale said. We assumed these were fantasy stories. Like your stories about dragons and magic. Fiction created for entertainment. Taiho set down his glass. His face had gone pale. War is not fiction, Yuna said slowly. The silence spread. It moved from table to table like a wave. Aliens stopped eating. Translators hummed as they processed her words. I do not understand, Kale said. You mean you have ceremonial combat? Ritual fighting between champions? No, Junho said. He put down his fork. He looked directly at Kale. I mean organized violence between nations. Armies of millions fighting for years. Cities destroyed completely. Entire generations killed. Ren had come closer. Her 4 eyes were very wide. Millions. Millions of what? Dead, Junho said simply. Millions of dead. In single conflicts. We had 2 large wars in the last century. Together they killed more than 70 million people. The translator struggled. Some aliens did not have words for numbers that large in the context of death. The machines had to create new phrases. 70 million, Kale whispered. His wings buzzed with distress. That is more than the entire population of my planet. Yes, Junho said. In 2 wars? In 2 wars. But we have had many more than 2. Ren sat down heavily in a nearby chair. Her blue skin had turned pale gray. How? How is this possible? You are so small, so fragile. Our bodies are fragile, Taiho said quietly. But we learn to build things that are not. An alien made of crystal approached. His body chimed like bells when he moved. You speak of wars? Past tense. These events are historical? Some are historical, Junho said. Some are happening now. On Earth, at this moment, there are several active conflicts in different regions. Now. The crystal alien's body cracked with shock. You came here while your people fight and die at home? The conflicts are far from my country, Junho explained. They do not affect me personally. But they affect your species. Junho nodded. Yes, they do. The banquet had stopped completely. No one ate. No one drank. Every alien in the room stared at the 3 humans. Kale spoke again. His voice was very small. I watched a human movie. It was called a documentary. It showed something called the First World War. I thought it was fiction because it was too horrible to be real. It was real, Yuna said gently. Everything in that documentary happened. The poison gas? Real? The machines that fired hundreds of bullets every minute? Real? The trenches filled with mud and bodies? Real? Kale's antennae drooped completely. Why? Why would you do these things to each other? Junho considered the question. He thought about his grandfather who had survived 1 war. He thought about his father who had served in another. He thought about himself, carrying memories of a 3rd. Because we were afraid, he said finally. We were small and weak on a dangerous world. We had no claws, no armor, no venom. So we made them. We built weapons because we needed to survive. But you used them on each other, Ren said. Not on predators. On your own kind, yes, Junho admitted. We feared each other, most of all. The room was completely silent. Somewhere, a glass fell from a table and shattered on the floor. No one moved to clean it up. I must ask, Kale said hesitantly. The questionnaire mentioned rules governing conflict. Do you truly have such rules? Ginho almost smiled. We have many rules. Books full of rules. They are called the Geneva Conventions. They explain what is allowed in war and what is forbidden. Rules for killing, Ren said. Her voice was hollow. Rules for how to kill, Junho corrected. And more importantly, rules for what you must never do. Things so terrible that even in war, they are crimes. War crimes, Taiho said. The translators clicked and hummed. Several of them sparked with confusion. The concept did not translate well for species that had never known war. I do not understand, Kale said. If something is forbidden, why do it? Junho looked at him steadily. The rules exist because without them, we would do those things. We have done them before. The rules are our promise to try not to do them again. Kale stood up suddenly. His wings buzzed with agitation. I need to leave. I need to think. He turned and walked quickly from the hall. Ren remained seated. She stared at Junho as if seeing him for the first time. We thought you were innocent, she said quietly. We thought you were gentle creatures who had never known violence. Many humans have never known violence, Yuna offered. Many of us live peaceful lives. But your species as a whole, Ren pressed. Your civilization. Your history. Junho met her gaze without flinching. Our history is complicated. We have done beautiful things and terrible things. Sometimes both at the same time. Sometimes in the same day. Ren stood slowly. The council will want a full explanation. Everything. Your complete military history? We will provide it, Junho said. Will it be as bad as what you have told us tonight? Junho thought about the wars he had studied. The genocides. The weapons. The endless creativity of human violence. Worse, he said honestly. Tonight was just the introduction. Ren walked away without another word. The other aliens followed her, leaving the three humans alone in the great hall, surrounded by cold food and empty chairs. Taiho poured himself another glass of alien wine. His hands were shaking slightly. That went well, he said dryly. No one laughed. The message came early the next morning. An emergency session of the council had been called. All 12 species would attend. The human delegation was required to appear immediately. Junho, dressed in his uniform again. Yuna gathered her translation devices. Taiho checked his files 3 times to make sure he had every document they might need. They are scared of us now, Taiho said as they walked through the empty corridors. I can see it in how the aliens look at us. Yesterday we were cute. Today we are dangerous. Should have been more careful, Yuna said. We should have prepared them slowly, no, Junho replied firmly. They asked questions. We told the truth. If they cannot handle the truth, that is their problem, not ours. The Hall of Concordance was enormous. It was shaped like a bowl, with rising seats on all sides and a flat stage in the center. Every seat was filled. Hundreds of aliens from 12 species stared down at the 3 small humans who stood alone on the stage. Elder House spoke first. He was made of living crystal, and his body rang like bells when he moved. He was very old, perhaps 1,000 years by Earth counting, and he led the Soroth people. Humas, he began, his voice echoing through the hall. Last night you made claims that have disturbed the entire council. You spoke of mass violence, organized death, wars lasting years. We require full explanation. Junho stepped forward. We are prepared to explain everything. Then begin, Voss commanded. Junho pulled a small device from his pocket. He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the air above him. Words in the common galactic language floated before the assembled aliens. What you see is a summary of the Geneva Conventions, Junho said. These are international laws agreed upon by most nations on Earth. They govern the conduct of war. Rules for war. Ren repeated from her seat high above. She had not recovered from last night. Her skin was still pale, as Junho confirmed. Specifically, rules for what you cannot do in war. Even when fighting, there are limits. He began to read. You cannot target medical facilities or medical personnel. Hospitals are protected, even in enemy territory. Doctors and nurses must be allowed to work without harm. This seems reasonable, Voss said carefully. You cannot execute prisoners of war. Once an enemy soldier surrenders, their life must be protected. They must be given food, water, shelter, and medical care. It's also reasonable. Junho paused. His expression grew more serious. You cannot use chemical weapons. Poison gas that burns the lungs. Nerve agents that kill in seconds. These are forbidden. Whispers spread through the audience. Translators clicked frantically. Cannot use biological weapons. Diseases created in laboratories. Plagues designed to spread through enemy populations. These are forbidden. The whispers grew louder. You cannot target civilian populations. Normal people who are not soldiers must not be attacked. Cities cannot be bombed simply to kill civilians. Kale stood up from his seat. His wings buzzed with agitation. Why do you need to forbid these things? Junho looked up at him calmly. Because we did them. All of them. Every single thing I just listed, we have done. The rules exist because without them, we would do them again. The hall exploded with noise. Aliens shouted in a dozen languages. Translators overloaded and sparked. Voss had to strike the floor repeatedly with his crystalline body to restore order. Silence. He commanded, silence. Slowly, the noise died down. Yuna stepped forward to stand beside Junho. I understand this is difficult to hear, but you must understand the context. These rules are not dreams or hopes. They are responses to real events. Every line in the Geneva Conventions exists because someone did something so horrible that the entire world agreed it must never happen again. Give us examples, Voss demanded. Specific examples. Junho nodded slowly. He changed the holographic display. An old photograph appeared, black and white, showing soldiers in a muddy trench wearing strange masks. First World War, he said. Earth year 1915. One side released poison gas that drifted across the battlefield. Thousands of soldiers died choking on their own blood. Their lungs were destroyed from the inside. Many more were blinded permanently. Within months, both sides were using gas weapons. By the end of the war, over 1 million people had been killed or injured by chemical weapons. He changed the image. A destroyed city appeared, buildings flattened, smoke rising into the sky. Second World War, Earth year, 1945. Cities were bombed from aircraft for days at a time. Fire spread through entire neighborhoods. Civilians burned in their homes. In one attack on a city called Tokyo, more than 80,000 people died in a single night. Most were women, children, and elderly. The audience sat in frozen horror. Continue, Voss said. His voice had grown quiet. Junho changed the image again. This time it showed a mushroom cloud rising into the sky. This is called a nuclear weapon. It releases the energy of the atom itself. We used it twice. 2 cities were destroyed instantly. The first killed approximately 80,000 people in seconds. Many more died later from radiation poisoning. Their bodies fell apart slowly over weeks and months. You used this weapon on your own species, Ren said. It was not a question. Yes. On cities full of civilians. Yes. Why? Junho considered his answer carefully. The war had already killed tens of millions. Our leaders believed that using these weapons would end the war faster and save more lives in the total count. They may have been right. We will never know for certain. Taiho stepped forward now. He pulled up more documents on the holographic display. These are records from various tribunals, he explained. After major wars, we hold trials. We judge those who violated the rules of war. We call them war criminals. You punish your own people? Kale asked. Your own soldiers? When we catch them, Taiho said. When we can prove what they did? Justice is not perfect, but we try. This is insane, someone shouted from the audience. You create rules, break them, then punish the breakers. Why not simply follow the rules in the first place? Yuna answered gently. Because humans are complicated. We can know something is wrong and still do it. We can love peace and still choose violence. We can write beautiful poetry in the morning and commit terrible acts in the afternoon. This contradiction does not exist in civilized minds, Voss said firmly. Perhaps, Junho replied. Or perhaps you have simply forgotten what you were before you became civilized. A shocked silence fell over the hall. We are not proud of our history, Junho continued. We are not proud of the things we have done. But we are honest about them. We study them. We try to learn. Every generation, we hope the next will be better. And are they? Ren asked. Are your children better than you? Junho thought of the ongoing conflicts on Earth, the weapons being developed, the hatred that still burned between nations. Sometimes, he said, not always. Not enough. Voss stood from his seat. His crystal body chimed with complex emotions that translators could not fully convey. We must deliberate, he announced. This information changes everything. Humanity's application for council membership is suspended pending further review. We understand, Junho said. You will return to your quarters. You will not leave until we summon you. We understand. The 3 humans turned and walked out of the Great Hall. Behind them, the 12 species of the Galactic Council sat in horrified silence, trying to comprehend the gentle-looking creatures who had just revealed themselves to be the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. As the doors closed behind them, Taiho let out a long breath. He said, They wanted to know who we really are. Junho nodded slowly. Now they know what happens next. Yuna asked. We wait, Gunho said, and we hope they understand that knowing what we are capable of is the first step toward controlling it. They walked back to their quarters in silence, feeling the weight of millions of eyes watching from the shadows. 2 days passed in silence. The humans stayed in their quarters as ordered. No one visited them. Food arrived on floating plates, but it felt less welcoming than before. The portions were smaller. The flavors were blander. Even the service drones seemed nervous around them. On the 3rd day, a message arrived. The council had made a decision. They would not reject humanity outright, but they required something first: a complete briefing on human, military history, everything. From the beginning, Junho spent the night preparing. He did not sleep. He organized thousands of years of conflict into a single presentation. He chose his words carefully, knowing each one would shape how the galaxy saw his species forever. The briefing was held in a smaller room. Only representatives from each species attended, along with historians and scholars. Kale was there, sitting in the front row. His antennae were flat against his head. He looked like he had not slept either. Junho stood before them with his holographic display ready. I will begin at the beginning, he said, and I will tell you the truth, even when the truth is ugly. He showed them the ancient wars first. Armies clashing with swords and spears. Empires rising and falling. Cities burned and rebuilt. The aliens watched with uncomfortable recognition. Many of their own species had passed through similar phases long ago. This we understand, Voss said. Early species often fight for resources and territory. It is primitive, but natural. Yes, Junho agreed. This was natural. What came next was not. He moved forward in time. The images changed. The weapons grew more complex. This is called a cannon, he explained, showing a metal tube mounted on wheels. It fires metal balls fast enough to break through stone walls. One of these can kill dozens of soldiers in seconds. He showed them muskets, then rifles, then machine guns. This weapon fires 600 rounds per minute, he said, displaying footage of a heavy machine gun. In the First World War, tens of thousands of soldiers died in single days attacking positions defended by these weapons. They walked into walls of bullets. They kept walking even as their friends fell beside them. They kept walking because their leaders ordered them to. The footage showed trenches stretching for hundreds of miles, bodies piled in mud, men with empty eyes staring at nothing. That war killed 17 million people in 4 years, Junho said. And when it ended, we were so angry and hurt that we created the conditions for an even larger war 20 years later. Ren had to leave the room when Junho showed footage of concentration camps. She returned later, her eyes wet, but said nothing. 6 million people killed in factories designed for murder, Junho explained. Not soldiers, civilians, men, women, children. They were killed because of their religion, their ethnicity, their identity. They were transported in trains. They were sorted. They were gassed. Their bodies were burned in ovens built for that purpose. Why? Kale whispered. Why would anyone do this? Because they were taught to hate, Una said softly. Because propaganda convinced them that certain people were not really people. Because fear and anger were easier than understanding. Junho continued. He showed them the firebombing of cities. He showed them the nuclear attacks. He showed them the photographs of shadows burned into walls, the only remains of human beings vaporized in an instant. After this war, we created the United Nations, he said, an organization dedicated to preventing future conflicts. We wrote the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We promised never again. We meant it. But you broke that promise, Voss said. Yes. Gunho changed the display. Many times. He showed them Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, conflict after conflict, decade after decade. In Rwanda, 800,000 people were killed in 100 days, he said, mostly with machetes. Neighbors killed neighbors. Friends killed friends. It happened so fast that the world could not stop it, even though we watched it on television. You watched? Kale asked in horror. You saw it happening and did nothing? We debated, Junho said bitterly. We discussed. We held meetings. By the time we acted, it was too late. The killing was already done, showed them child soldiers. Children as young as 8 holding rifles. Children forced to kill their own families to prove their loyalty. Children with dead eyes who had forgotten how to play. Sometimes we fight with children, Junho admitted. Not officially. Not legally. But it happens. It keeps happening. He showed them drone warfare. Missiles fired from robots flying 10,000 meters in the sky. Operators sitting in comfortable chairs on the other side of the world, pressing buttons that killed strangers they would never see. War has become clean for some, Taiho said. You can kill without ever seeing blood. Without ever hearing screams. You can kill and then go home for dinner with your family. Is this better or worse? Voss asked. We do not know, Junho admitted. We argue about it constantly. We will probably never agree. The briefing lasted 8 hours. By the end, several aliens had left the room in distress. Those who remained looked like they had aged years in a single day. Kale approached Junho when it was finally over. Captain, he said, his voice exhausted, I must ask you something. You have told us about the terrible things your species has done. But you also mentioned rules, trials, punishments. You try to stop these things, do you not? We try, Junho said. Do you succeed? Junho was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the ongoing conflicts on Earth, the suffering that continued despite all their efforts, the weapons still being built, the hatred still being taught. Sometimes, he said finally, not enough. But sometimes, why do you keep trying? Kale asked. If you fail so often, why not give up? Junho looked at the young historian with his flat antennae and sad eyes. He saw genuine confusion there. Genuine desire to understand. Because giving up would mean accepting that we are only capable of darkness, Junho said. And we are not. We are also capable of light. Every hospital we build, every child we educate, every hand we extend to a stranger in need, that is also who we are. But the darkness remains. Yes, it always will. We are both things at once. We are capable of creating concentration camps, and we are capable of liberating them. We can drop nuclear bombs, and we can sign treaties promising never to use them again. We are creatures of contradiction, Una stepped forward. In our literature, we have a concept called the dual nature of humanity. We know we contain both good and evil. Our entire civilization is a struggle between these forces. Every day, every person must choose which side to strengthen. And your species keeps choosing violence, Voss observed. Some of us do, Una agreed. Others choose differently. The ones who choose peace rarely make it into the history books. They do not fight wars or conquer nations. They simply live quiet lives of kindness. There are billions of them. They are the majority. But the minority has nuclear weapons, Voss said. Yes, Junho acknowledged. That is why we wrote the rules. That is why we hold trials. We cannot eliminate the darkness in human nature, but we can build cages for it. We can write laws and create systems and teach each generation that cruelty is wrong. Does it work? Yunho smiled sadly. Not perfectly, but better than nothing. Better than giving up? The Geneva Conventions have not stopped all war crimes, but they have stopped some. They have made soldiers hesitate before crossing certain lines. They have given victims a framework for demanding justice. He looked around the room at the exhausted, horrified faces of a dozen alien species. We are not asking you to forgive us, he said. We are not asking you to forget what we have told you. We are asking you to understand that we know who we are. We have looked into our own darkness. We have documented every horror, and despite everything we have seen, we still choose to hope for something better. The room was silent. Kales and Tenny slowly rose from their flat position. I think, he said quietly, that may be the most human thing of all. The council deliberated for 3 more days. The human delegation was confined to their quarters. They had no visitors. They received no messages. They could only wait and wonder what the galaxy was deciding about their future. Junho spent his time looking out the window at the stars. He wondered if Earth could see this particular section of space. He wondered what his family was doing. He wondered if they would ever know what he had said here, or how the aliens had reacted. Yuna organized her notes obsessively. She had recorded every expression, every question, every reaction from the council sessions. She analyzed them endlessly, trying to predict the outcome. Some nights she stayed up late talking to herself in different languages, rehearsing arguments she might never get to use. Taiho exercised. He did push-ups and sit-ups and ran in place in the small space available. Physical activity helped him think. It helped him stay calm, but even he could not hide the tension in his shoulders or the worry in his eyes. On the 4th morning, the message finally came. The 3 humans were summoned to the Hall of Concordance. Immediately, they walked through the corridors together, not knowing what awaited them. Would they be rejected? Expelled from the station? Declared dangerous and quarantined forever? The Great Hall was even more crowded than before. Additional representatives had arrived from every species. The seats were completely full, and many aliens stood in the aisles. This was clearly a historic moment. Whatever decision had been reached, everyone wanted to witness it. Junho led his team to the center stage. They stood under the weight of 1,000 alien stares and waited. Elder Voss rose from his seat. His crystal body chimed with complex emotions. He descended slowly to the stage and stood facing the humans. Captain Park Junho, he began. Dr. Kim Yuna, Lieutenant Lee Taeho, you have shown us things we did not expect. You have revealed truths that have shaken our understanding of your species and perhaps of intelligent life itself. Gunho nodded, but said nothing. We have reviewed your complete history, Voss continued. Every war, every atrocity, every treaty you signed and every treaty you broke. We have studied your weapons and your laws, your cruelties and your kindnesses. He paused. The hall was completely silent. We have also studied your art, your music, your literature, your philosophy. We have seen your hospitals that heal strangers for free. We have seen your charities that feed the hungry and shelter the homeless. We have seen soldiers who died protecting people they never met. We have seen ordinary humans performing extraordinary acts of mercy and love. Ren descended from her seat to join Voss on the stage. Her skin had regained its healthy blue color. Her 4 eyes were calm. I called your species innocent when we first met, she said. I was wrong. You are not innocent. You have never been innocent. But I was also wrong about what that meant. She turned to face the assembled council. We assumed innocence was the same as goodness, she said loudly. We believed that species who had never known violence were superior to those who had, but that is not wisdom. That is simply an experience. She pointed at the humans. These creatures have stared into the darkest parts of their own souls. They have documented every horror they are capable of. They have written rules and built systems and created institutions to control the monster that lives inside them. They have not defeated it. They never will. But they keep fighting it anyway. Voss spoke again. Many of our species evolve without natural predators. We have never faced true existential threat. We cannot truly understand what it means to survive on a hostile world surrounded by dangers, both external and internal. He looked at Junho directly. You called your species afraid. You said you built weapons because you were small and soft and terrified. But you survived. Against all odds, against every threat, you survived. And you did more than survive. You built civilizations. You created beauty. You reached for the stars. Kale came forward now, pushing through the crowd to reach the stage. I have studied many species, he said. I have never encountered one that frightened itself as much as humanity frightens itself. You write stories about your own destruction. You create movies about your own extinction. You imagine every possible way your civilization could end, and then you argue about how to prevent it. This seemed like madness to me at first, Kale admitted. Now I think it might be the sanest thing any species has ever done. You understand your own capacity for evil. You never let yourselves forget. And that knowledge, that terrible self-awareness, drives you to be better. Voss raised his crystalline arms in a formal gesture. The Council has voted, he announced. Humanity is accepted as a full member of the Galactic Council of 12 Species. A shocked murmur ran through the audience. More than that, Voss continued, we have created a new position specifically for humanity. You will serve as our advisors on conflict. When disputes arise between species, when negotiations fail and tensions escalate, we will consult you. Why us? Junho asked, genuinely surprised. Because you understand war as no other species does, Ren answered. You understand how conflicts begin, how they escalate, and how they end. You understand the cost of violence. You carry that cost in your history, in your stories, in your very souls. We also understand, Voss added, that you may sometimes prevent conflicts that we cannot even recognize as dangerous. You see warning signs that we have learned to ignore. Your terrible experience has given you terrible wisdom. Junho was silent for a long moment. Then he bowed his head respectfully. We are honored, he said. We will do our best to be worthy of this trust. Ren smiled gently. We know you will not be perfect. You have told us already that humanity never is. But you will try. And sometimes, trying is enough. The formal ceremony ended. Aliens began filing out of the hall, many of them stopping to look at the humans with new expressions. There was still fear in some eyes. But there was also something else. Respect, perhaps. Or curiosity. Or hope. Kale approached Junho one last time. Captain, he said, I must ask one final question. Your rules for war. Your Geneva Conventions. Do humans actually follow them?